Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Miller, and I work on the social team here at Hot Wheels. And I'm so excited to welcome you to Trailblazers Live. This is a celebration of not only Women's History Month, but a celebration of women who are doing incredible things in the automotive and motorsports world. While I'll be your host for today's space, I am very excited to welcome some pretty incredible and talented women. And while I can go on and on about each of them, I will let them introduce themselves. So first up, I will pass the mic over to Bri Lynch, who will introduce herself.
Hi, you guys. My name is Bri Lynch. I am super excited to be here today. I'm 25 years old. I am a professional stunt driver and the owner of Chasing Checkers Racing, which is a clothing brand that I founded to include all motorsports enthusiasts under one roof.
Thanks, Bri. And then I will pass it off to Lindsey Lee. Lindsey, can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do here at Hot Wheels?
Hello, my name is Lindsey, and I'm a Hot Wheels Basics diecast designer. I do most of the diecast castings for Hot Wheels. We design our own cars or the licensed ones, and not only the basics, I do character cars and some other lines as well.
Thanks, Lindsey. So before we get started with the talk, I just want to remind everyone, please submit any questions you may have directly to us via Twitter using the handle at hot_wheels. So like I mentioned earlier, everyone here on the stage is a trailblazer in her own right, and I would just love to learn a little bit more about how everyone got started here within their perspective focus area. Bri, did you want to kick it off?
Sure. I have been in the motorsports world for a very long time. I started riding motocross when I was 3 years old, started racing when I was six, and then eventually got into driving later on in life around when I was like 16 or so. And it was a pretty natural transition from motocross to stunt driving. My dad is also a stunt driver, so I kind of got into the industry in that way. But I fell in love with driving almost right away, and I just decided that I wanted to keep going to the track with my dad. And eventually a lot of jobs came up and I kind of fell into this career. I wasn't necessarily chasing it right away, but it's been fun so far.
That's cool. Lindsey, can you share about how you got started within toy design and product design?
Yeah, Brie, that's really impressive because around me, everyone surrounding me was like Brie. They all started from when they're really young. They started drawing from four. They loved car. But compared to them, my starting point in car design was very humble. I always liked the good looking things. I always loved looking at beautiful objects from daily life. And while I was on the road, I thought some cars are looking better than the other. And this was when I was in high school. So I was looking for something to do for the future. And when I say better looking cars, I don't mean by Ferraris, Lamborghinis, or like Aston Martins. I grew up in South Korea. So by then, majority of cars I saw on the street was quite ordinary, like the regular sedans, hatchbacks, those kind of things. So as I see more and observe more, I could distinguish some cars from another, and that really led me to think why some of them are looking better than the other. And that was my starting point when I knew nothing about cars.
And I think that's a really unique tie-in is that, we all have our different pathways, but somehow we found our way right here. And that makes our stories unique. The moment we share our stories, people have insight on how we got here and it allows people just to understand, more of our story. And so something else I think is very unique is obstacles. All of us here on this stage are women of color. I myself am a Black woman. And so I know a thing or two about overcoming different obstacles in my life and even within my career. And I can only imagine, as we kind of navigate and figure out our paths, different obstacles that we may have faced in our respective fields. So to that, I would just love to understand if you could each share maybe a hurdle you may have faced in the past and how you overcame it.
Well, for me, I think number one, having a father that's also in the same industry that I'm in, the number one thing is that everybody just kind of compares me to him right off the bat. So that was a really big struggle that I faced. And I also realized that a lot of people um, thought that my dad just kind of handed me all of the answers and I didn't really figure anything out by myself. But I'm still the person driving the car, which is the funniest thing that people really thought that, oh, just because that's Jay Lynch's kid, like she's going to, But anyway, that was a really big struggle that I kind of face for a really long time. I had to prove myself over and over and over again, and I still do. I've been a stunt driver for 8 years now, and I've worked on some really big projects. But I still have to prove myself every time I go to work. I went to work yesterday, and somebody was trying to explain to me how to drive a manual transmission. So that's one thing. And another thing that I've really struggled with, I guess, or a hurdle that I've had to overcome is convincing people that I know what I'm talking about. Because it's one thing to be able to drive the car, but it's another thing to actually know about cars as well. So that's something that I struggle with a lot because the movie industry is a male dominated field. So when there's a little girl in there, they're like, what are you doing here? You know?
Lindsey, do you have anything to share or add to that?
I can't agree more with Bri because I also had some obstacles along the way, just like any other goal in life does. But the biggest obstacle for me is my confidence, and it's kind of related to what Bri said. It actually hasn't completely solved quite yet. I have been, and I'm still dealing with it. So when I started car design in college, there were so many car enthusiasts in school, and you need to prove yourself out of it. So I sometimes felt like I don't belong here for not knowing too much about cars. They catch which car is which just by looking at their headlamps or tail lamps or just by the part of the car. You know, like the fact that I don't go all the way in for like F1 races. I don't get super excited for weekend mountain drives and kind of things. Those things got kind of picked me on, and I was standing out among car guys. So everyone around me basically loved it. And I was picked on for a joke when I drew cars while I couldn't get the driver license yet because I was underage in Korea. Or being in a car design major who can't do manual drives. I was getting picked on all the time for those kind of things. And those experiences really made me lose confidence sometimes, even if I don't agree with them. So also English being my second language on top of it, it really didn't help in fighting back for those comments. So it naturally got solved over time as me speak better English than before. Also, I became one of those car enthusiasts. Still not all the way in for racings, but I do like good performance cars or the cars with those looks.
Yeah, I myself can relate to both of your experiences. I myself I'm pretty new to automotive space. I've been in it for about the last 2 years. And even the more I learn, the more I grow within the field, imposter syndrome is real. And so I think the unique thing about each of the stories here is that although we hit these obstacles, we never stopped. It never stopped us from getting to where we are now. Like we still push forward and we've gotten to where we are today.
Agreed.
So one of my biggest beliefs is that there's so much power in knowledge and sharing, our stories and just, who's around the table. I think when the more we share, we eliminate the idea of gatekeeping and more people can be present at the table. So I'm wondering, kind of like a final question for the ladies on stage is that, can you share any advice for the next generation for those who might be interested in following your footsteps?
I think a big piece of advice that I would have, and this kind of indirectly came from my dad back when I used to race motocross, is why can't you? It's more so of a question than advice, I guess, but um, I remember that I was not naturally talented on a motorcycle. I was not naturally talented in a car right away. It took me a lot of hard work just to kind of get to a decent level where I only noticed that because my younger brother, he's like 4.5 years younger than me and was always better at me than everything, like naturally. So, when I would compare myself to him, my dad would be like, well, why can't you beat him? Or why can't you be faster than him? Or why can't you be just as good as him? Um, and I think that that's kind of something that I've tried to carry with me throughout all these years is even when I do start to feel inconfident or I feel like I don't belong somewhere or I'm not good enough to be somewhere or I'm not sure why I was chosen for the position, I'm like, well, why not? Why can't I be just as good as those other people? I might have to work a little bit harder, but I can absolutely do it. If I can do it, anybody else can do it too.
Thanks, Brie. That really helps for my, getting over with the obstacles in my life. Well, for me, if you have strong passion and if the passion drives you, you will know what to do and follow your dream. But if you're like me and would like to follow my footsteps, I would say do your best every day. Like just do your best every day. And I know it's such a boring recommendation, such a stereotype that I don't really need to add more to it because we all know that. But I'm saying this for those who doesn't have definite dream to follow, or they kind of have a goal yet doesn't know a way to do it. They can start from doing the very best of what's given to them right now, and that will lead you to another experiences that will make another door to be open for you. So I also didn't think I could be a Hot Wheels designer, and yet I am. So I believe that was the other door that was open for me beside the car designer.
Well, I'm definitely over here with my notebook taking notes from both of you. And just as a friendly reminder to anybody listening, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them now to us via Twitter, as we are going through right now, looking for audience questions. So here is one. This is a really good question. Why do you love working in this field?
Oh, why do I like working in this field? I personally like being a stunt driver so much because I don't do the same thing every day. So I really like that. I like that every time that I go to work, I have a little bit of nervousness because I feel like there's always going to be a new challenge. Yesterday, I had to drive 3 on a tree for the first time ever. I wasn't nervous because, manual transmission is a manual transmission, but I hadn't physically gotten to do it yet. So it's kind of cool that I never really know what I'm going to expect, and I feel like there's always something for me to learn. That's kind of like something that I try to remind myself every day in life, is that you can always learn something from someone. So yeah, it's fun that I get to go into work and I get to learn something new every time, and yet they still call me a professional.
For me, my career began with, oh, I think it's a really cool thing to work on. It's something unique. And I realized along the way that I don't like something ordinary. So that kind of explains why I love to work in this industry. But at the same time, I think it's a natural click because I love, as I said, I love looking at great things. And with that, my knowledge clicks now because I learned through the curve. So I hope that explains why I love to work in this industry.
It definitely does. And it looks like we have a question for you, Lindsey. The question asks,
Mhm.
what has been your favorite project to work on?
In Hot Wheels,
On Hot Wheels, yes.
it's keep updating, and I can't pick one. And sometimes it's not being highlighted as my best work, and I know what those are, but I sometimes like the things that really challenge me. Like we try to do one car that's TL5. Now we call it a TL3, and that means ultimate um, best performance track car. And we go through a lot of struggles by we need to make the car clearance high in order to clear all the tracks we make. But at the same time, in order to make it look good, we need to make it lower. So that's the struggle we always face for the good performance track cars for Hot Wheels. And I did a Linster prototype. The car name kind of has my name in it, and that car had a covered wheel in the back. And usually we avoid doing that because when you cover the wheel, that creates extra frictions for the track, and it usually doesn't clear for the best track ratings. But it cleared, and we did a lot of mock-ups, we did a lot of tests, we did a lot of conversations over it, and those kind of experimental projects really makes me become more creative, and I can collaborate with other teams as well. So I learn a lot from it. So one of those kind of things are my favorites.
Well, that's good to know. I definitely want to swing by your desk one of these days and see that die cast. It looks like we have a question for Bri. Bri, what was your very first car?
Ah, my first car was a 2007 Pontiac Solstice GXP. And I still have it to this day. It's not currently living where I live, but I do still have the car. And honestly very impressed that I was able to pick that car at such a young age. I actually decided that that was the first car that I wanted when I was like, oh, I think 12. I think I was 12 years old, and I
Mm-hmm.
rode in one. My dad's friend had one, and I didn't know that it was JayCee swapped, so it had an engine from a Toyota Supra in it, and I had no idea. I just got to ride in his car, and I thought it was really cool, and I liked the way that it felt, and I liked the way that it looked, and so I told my dad when I was like 12 years old that that was the car that I wanted as my first car. And I actually ended up getting one as my first car. So I'm very shocked because I had hardly any research done in the car. I didn't know anything. I just knew they came in manual transmission, and that's what I wanted because I wanted to make sure that I could drive that. And it kind of reminded me of my dirt bike because it has a clutch and gears. So yeah, that was my first car, and I still love it to this day.
Well, your first car was much better than mine. Mine was a Kia Spectra. I heard there's a rumor that you have a Datsun 280Z. Is there anything new and fun that you're doing to it?
Yes. Okay. I was actually going to get into this a little bit. My first car that I like when I started doing research on cars, the car that I wanted after that, by the time that I was like 15, so 12, I wanted the Pontiac Solstice, and then by the time that I turned 15, then I wanted a 240Z. And I told my dad, and my dad was like, absolutely not. Like he was like, no. He's like, they're too old. They're going to break down on you all the time. I don't want you to have a first car experience like that. I just want you to have a car that's going to be like reliable and get you where you need to go. I don't want to hear that you couldn't make it to school or one of your sessions or whatever. Like he was like, I don't want to hear it. We're just gonna you need to get something newer. So then that's how we landed on the Solstice. But I finally have an S30. I have a 280Z now. Which is
Yes.
really cool. Yeah, what's crazy is like I've been working on cars and building cars for like I think 6 years now, probably 6 years because I've been a stunt driver for 8 years, and I don't know why I didn't get a 280Z sooner. I just got this one in October, and I was really excited about it. There's a very long story behind it, but I don't know why I didn't get one sooner because like now that I know what I'm doing, I can save myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I am like stranded on the side of the road for some reason, I can like help myself. So it's kind of crazy that like I finally got one, but it took me this long to get it. But I'm very excited. I have to manual transmission swap that car because that one isn't automatic, unfortunately. But what's funny is the 280Z, that's actually like a luxury version of it because they didn't really come in automatics. They only made like a few of them like that. So it kind of makes
Mm-hmm.
me feel bad that I'm gonna like manual transmission swap it, but I don't want an automatic. But I just feel bad because like it's kind of special because it's automatic.
It's okay. That'll be our secret for this Twitter space. What happens in Twitter space stays in Twitter space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So looking at just Hot Wheels in general and our diecast lines, we have something called character cars. And so I know Lindsay works very close on that. And so I'm wondering, is there a character car that you're most proud of?
Ah, that's a difficult question because I don't even remember all the projects that I worked on. But definitely
Same
the
thing.
you do?
I can't even list all the movies that I've been in like at all. That's hilarious to hear. Thank God.
Yeah, but your cars, you're so up in the game. Yeah, but definitely, there was one card that was on the cover of all the like character cards, which is Mickey Mouse. I worked on it with Brian. He was my manager at the time, and we actually did a little competition inside the design team. So not only the Hot Wheels diecast designers, but also some plastics guys and some other designers from other departments participated for that because we wanted to create absolutely the best design for the main car. Because Mickey Mouse car is like the main car for the Disney line, the entire line. And yeah, my design got chosen out of it. And I was in Hong Kong at the time, so I couldn't do all the development process on my own. And Disney had some requests about the Mickey's ears and stuff. And Brian helped me working on those on the El Segundo side in US. So that was our collaboration project, and I'm so proud of it. I still like it. Yeah, I have one on my desk indeed.
So speaking of like design, within each
Mhm.
of our fields, we're each always looking for inspiration. For me, I find that being outdoors and just being in nature and music. I'm wondering, do you have like an unexpected source of inspiration as you design and as you create?
Unexpected source. Huh.
Like, what
Well,
gets you going when you're sitting at your desk and you're getting ready to design out a new die cast? Is there something that gets you inspired to just to create?
maybe not the desk. You know how designers get the inspiration is always from the Pinterest, or you go to Peterson Automotive Museum if you're in LA. You look at some classic cars and get inspired for the new cars from the retro cars. But
Mm-hmm.
beside that, I go to Miniso, or like a little um, tool store that sells little accessories, or like a fancy stores like that. If you know what
Okay.
I mean, Miniso,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or Daiso, if you know that. So those are the little tools for the purpose, and like even if I'm not going to use that for that purpose, I look at those little products with the purpose, and I get inspired by those.
Nice. Bree, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Um, I don't design cars, but where I guess I would get some inspiration from, I think that, well, I know that not necessarily for stunt driving, because stunt driving is a little different where I just kind of have to show up and do what they ask me to do. I usually don't get too much of a say in what's going on unless if I'm just telling them what a car is capable of or isn't capable of. But when it comes to like I guess my cars and chasing checkers, where I draw inspiration from. Chasing checkers, I draw inspiration from motorsports racing. That's what the whole brand is based off of. So I look at a lot of different types of motorsports. So I take a lot of inspiration from like motocross because those are kind of my roots. And then I also look at stuff like NASCAR and Formula One and off-road racing and drifting and drag racing, all kinds of stuff. And I just try to find something that everybody has in common. That's how I created the brand as a whole, which is chasing checkers, because we're all chasing the checkered flag in every motorsport. So I usually just try to find inspiration from those motorsports. I think the weirdest place that I ever found inspiration one time was at the track, and I was not driving. It was at a motocross track, and I was listening to this guy tell a story, and he was like, kind of explaining what happened in the lap, that he was riding, and he was like telling his friend, he's like, yeah, dude, I was like full throttle into this corner, wide open, and I was like, whoa, that's really like, I got like this whole like design idea from that specifically. So now I have like a hoodie that has full throttle on the back of it. It's actually my bestseller. And yeah, I just kind of try to take things that I think that motorsports and athletes would have in common, or find something from a specific motorsport that would kind of cater to that. So my whole like slogan for chasing checkers is being better than your last lap, because I think that's kind of something every racer has in common. Is it's not really that they're racing against other people, they're usually just trying to beat themselves from how they did the last time, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
their last lap or their last race. And I kind of take that as like a day-to-day motivation as well, just try to be better than you were yesterday.
I love that, and I'm definitely going to use that for myself as I go day to day. So I'm
Oh,
combing
thanks.
through some of the questions, and it says, Bree, what is the craziest stunt you've ever performed?
Okay, so there are two different versions of this story. There's the one that everybody really likes to hear, which is I worked on a Beyonce music video. I
Oh,
did, yeah, it was called Formation. I was actually the thumbnail of that video, so that's
never
like
heard of it.
that's a very big a big accomplishment for me in my life, I guess, of being the thumbnail of one of Beyonce's music videos. But everybody likes that story just because she like it was a very iconic scene in that music video. She like has her head hanging out of this El Camino, and she's got like long blonde braids,
Mm-hmm.
and I was driving that car. I was driving the El Camino, doing donuts with her in it, and her feet were literally on my lap. So that was a really cool one. That's like the fan favorite one, along with Black Panther. I went to South Korea and did the whole car chase for Lupita Nyong'o. I was driving the silver Lexus that had the other character on top of it. Um, and we were actually in South Korea, actually driving through like the fish market and like through all the scenes that you see in the movie, like the bridge and all this stuff. And it took us like 3.5 weeks to shoot. So those are like probably the top two that people like to hear about. But I did this one absolutely ridiculous stunt that has been like a bucket list stunt for me since I became a stunt driver. And that is because this is like creme de la creme of stunts. It's called a cannon. And to give you a perspective, there was another guy doing the same stunt with me because our two cars had to interact and both end up doing cannons. And he was like 47 years old, like a dad, 47 years old, and had never done a cannon before. And I was 21 doing a cannon also. So
Wow.
you have to really, really, really be trusted in the industry to do something like that because it's the most dangerous car stunt that you can do. And you can't get bigger than that unless if you like set the car on fire and send it through a hoop that's also on fire over top of a shark tank or something. Like you have to like basically just make that stunt but even bigger. And you can't get bigger than that. So I got to do that when I was 21, and then I did my second one when I was 22, which was just like absolutely insane because I can list on one hand how many females have done cannons, and I was 21 and 22 when I did both of them, and I was the youngest female to have ever done a cannon. So that was a really cool one for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that's amazing. My name is not Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter, but I think me and Lindsey both want to come down and do some stunts. So we need to figure out how can we make this happen.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would love that.
Yeah, when you started with the Korean, the chasing scene and like destroying all the fish markets and everything, I'm like, yes, that's what I wanted to hear. But
Yeah.
but after hearing about the fish tank and the fires and everything, I'm like, wow.
The fish tank
I
was
like
the
it better, the second one, yes.
yeah, but you know, I mean, like the fan favorite one to hear is the Beyonce music video or like Black Panther because they're just like
Yes.
bigger, you know, like
Yeah.
bigger shows that people have heard of or bigger like you know productions that people have heard of. But this one was literally on a TV show. The two cannons were on a TV show like that was filmed in Hungary. I never even watched it. I think it was called like Treadstone or something. I've never even seen it. I didn't even get to see it, but I got to do it. So.
And Bri, can you talk us through what exactly is a cannon for those of us who don't know?
Oh yeah, a cannon is how do I explain this? It's like a it's essentially like to like put it in layman's terms, it's kind of like a pneumatic bomb that is controlled by either the driver or someone outside of the car. And it basically just makes the car flip over really violently. So if you imagine like a telephone pole, um,
Mm-hmm.
mounted in the back of your car that has like not a bomb strapped to it, but that's essentially what it is because an explosion happens and it shoots the telephone pole like towards the ground and flips your car up in the air. So the back end of your car comes up first, and usually you're doing this at some type of speed. I believe I was doing 45 miles an hour, so it was fast. Um, but yeah, so your car is already doing a speed, and then the back of your car pretty much explodes and goes flying up into the air, and then your car just keeps tumbling and tumbling and tumbling until it stops. But what happened before that, the reason that the other guy was doing a cannon too, is because I had to pit maneuver him. So I had to basically like be pacing alongside him, and then my character has to pit maneuver him. So I had to drive into the rear end of his car. Even though we were side by side, I had to drive into the rear end of his car, which causes both of our cars to flip. So my car was flipping sideways down the street, and his was kind of like head to tail down the street.
Wow. I'm definitely gonna leave that to you. I'm gonna
Wow.
stick to doing social media.
Where can I see that? On your YouTube?
And yeah, I actually made a YouTube video on that one. I'm gonna look up the name of it right now so I can tell you. But I made a YouTube video for that stunt because I was so excited about it. They allowed me to do it, which was really cool. But the show was called Treadstone, so you could see like the actual professional footage of it on
Mhm.
Treadstone. But my YouTube channel was a pretty cool one to watch too. I'll find it right now for you.
Oh, hey.
I'm yeah, I'm definitely want to see that. And it looks like we have a question for Lindsey. This person asked Lindsey, what's the process for designing new concept cars like the Nissan Z? Since it isn't fully done, for example, what challenges does that create?
I can tell that you saw the postings I shared or somebody else shared. And yeah, a lot of my friends says they want one. Um, and the struggles behind it is just the same as other cars, but especially for the Nissan, the new model. Nissan Z. That one was a prototype. So that's something we usually like to avoid because prototypes are usually different from the production type. So for that one, I wanted to make it as close as the prototype, which is usually more cool, looking better than the production type usually.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the actual car. We visited where they made the model car of that prototype, and we took a lot of photos for reference. Some assemblies doesn't work as we want them to be. Those are the struggles, as well as the scaled cars doesn't look good enough when you just scale it down simply. So there are a lot of small modifications you need to make in order to make it exciting in that small scale. So those are some of the points that we need to work on as a designer to make it look more exciting and look more like the actual car, because it becomes really flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it applies to all the cars, but especially for the prototypes like that, the 400Z kind of thing, it takes a little more work than the production cars.
That's good to know. And I'm just combing through our Twitter account just one last time as we wrap things up. I think a really good question to end with for both ladies is, are there any new projects that you're currently working on? And is there anything you can maybe tease for our audience today?
Well, I am working very hard on all of my cars right now, and on chasing checkers. As far as like movie industry projects go, I just wrapped on Black Panther 2 maybe a month ago or so, and then I've just been working on like small little TV shows. Well, not small, but TV shows that I can't mention right now because nobody knows that they're filming. Other than that, but yeah, I just finished up on Black Panther 2, which was very exciting. It was a long, drawn out process, but we just finished that. We finished the stunt up on that like last month.
That's super cool. I cannot wait to see it in theaters.
Can't wait.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, for me, I have been and I am right now rampaging into all the areas of the design under Hot Wheels. So under the branch of cars, I'm doing the Matchbox these days. Also, I'm doing some of the trekking truck products. I did some of them from 2 years ago, and I just designed something really, really, really cool. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that this here, but it's a yacht concept trekking truck. Actually, the rig that can carry another Hot Wheels car on top of it.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, and I can't reveal right now, but I'm sure you guys are gonna love it. It's got some transparent panels. I wanted to embrace that into as a material into that design. So it has that really cool yacht details and really has that ocean breeze feeling into it. So I'm sure you guys are gonna like it.
That's awesome.
That sounds super exciting. It almost sounds a little bit like Teen Transport. So I can't wait to see that come out.
It is actually. It is one of that. Yes.
Oh, super cool. Okay. Well, I am so excited to see what you both produce in like the upcoming months and the coming years. And I just wanted to say thank you for taking time out today just to talk with me and allowing us to learn a little bit more about your story, especially as we celebrate Women's History Month.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the invite. It's good to meet you guys, and Bri. Talking to Bri was really fun.
Thanks. It was great talking to you guys too.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for joining. This concludes Trailblazers Live, and we look forward to seeing you on our next Twitter space very soon. Take care.
You too.